Welcome, Husker Nation, to a dark side edition of the Carriker Chronicles. Now, the sun came up today. I'm just not sure how, but we're going to do things a little bit differently today on the Carriker Chronicles. These are my notes from the game yesterday. I literally just want to go through my notes as I took them throughout the game. Now, the first thing I have written down here is first quarter, 4th and short on our own 35. We made a 4th down. Riverboat Gambler strikes again, right? Things are starting off on the right foot. Things are going well right in the beginning, right? Well, it wasn't long before we gave up a 75-yard touchdown run. Then we gave up a 67-yard touchdown pass. And we gave up another 56-yard run, which led to another touchdown. It just seemed like these explosive plays from Iowa is what dominated the first quarter and the first half of play. Another thing that surprised me is on these explosive plays that Iowa had, I was surprised how much faster the Iowa player with the ball was than the guy we had chasing him. I didn't expect that. This isn't Oregon, speedy Oregon. So I was surprised how much faster those particular players were than the ones we had chasing them. Now, by comparison, when we played Maryland, we gave up a total of 207 yards in the entire game to Maryland. In the first quarter against Iowa, we gave up 198 yards. I had a coach my first few years in St. Louis, and anytime we would play the New York Giants, the Cowboys at the time had one of the best lines in the league then too. Anytime we played physical offensive lines, he would always say, "Hey, Rook," or as I got older, "Hey, Carriker, you got to bring your big boy pads this week," meaning it was going to be a physical smash mouth game. And I knew what that meant every single time he said it. I feel like every time we play Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, those types of teams, Nebraska needs to bring their big boy pads, kind of like teams used to have to do when they played Nebraska. We've changed our offense a little bit, but that's what needs to happen when we play these types of teams. Iowa brought their big boy pads to this game. Nebraska did not. And unfortunately, Iowa took us out behind the woodshed and gave us a good old-fashioned whooping, which I did not particularly enjoy, and I'm sure you didn't as well. What also surprised me was the Iowa's offensive line. Now, they've been banged up all year, just like Nebraska's offensive line. And I even mentioned that before the game. And I thought that would be an advantage for us, could possibly be an advantage. But we had defensive linemen out of gaps. We had defensive linemen getting moved. The Iowa offensive line played very well. They won the battle up front. And what happened was we had these gaping holes. And now our linebackers have to fill those holes. And there was a lot of missed tackles. And in the secondary, there's a lot of space. And there's a lot of missed tackles as well. On the defense, the special teams, there's just a lot of missed tackles and a lot of big holes. And the Iowa offensive line played very well. To me, this game was almost similar to Wisconsin. You would just see the Wisconsin running back spurt through a big play, and then he spurt through for a big play. This reminded me a lot of the Wisconsin game because Iowa runs a lot of the same plays as Wisconsin, frankly, to be honest with you. That's page 1 of my notes. Let me flip over to page 2. The first thing I have written down, nothing fancy. Iowa won the battle up front. And I had someone tweet me on Twitter, so of course it's got to be true. I didn't take the time to fact check it, but I know Iowa's offense wasn't highly rated coming in, but they said Iowa's offense was 112th in the country coming into this game. And it just looked to me like Iowa wanted the game more than Nebraska did. I will tell you this, Iowa's one of the most boring teams in the country to watch our team lose to. I don't like watching them getting blown out or beat by anybody, but they are just boring. But they've beaten us 2 years in a row. Maybe there's something to that pink locker room they have there in Iowa, in the visitors' locker room. They look like the team playing for a possible division championship, not the Huskers. They looked more motivated, like they wanted it more than Nebraska did. At halftime, I was kind of waiting to see some halftime adjustments from Banker, from Langsdorff, from Coach Riley, and I don't know that they did a whole lot. It didn't appear that any of them worked, whatever they did. Now, clearly, Tommy's injury had an effect on this game. He couldn't run. Iowa knew that. We couldn't run our option game like normal. Iowa took advantage of him having to be more stationary, and I think it also affected his throwing. Now, part of me was like, why don't we put another quarterback in? And no disrespect to Riker, he played well against Maryland, but he's not 100% with his left hand. And also, that was the first time he instilled any confidence in Husker Nation in a real game. So were we going to throw him out there? And he did get in. He got sacked the first play. Were we going to put Darlington out there who has no experience? Tommy was our best option. It just was what it was. And I wasn't a fan of a lot of the play calls that they had. So many long passes, long pass after long pass after long pass. I wasn't crazy about it. But if you do think back, some of those guys were open. This game could have gone differently. Tommy, he was affected by this hamstring, and a lot of those passes were off. A lot of those guys were open. And I wouldn't have thrown as many long passes, but this game could have gone differently if some of those passes had connected. Next, I have written down third downs. We were 19th in the country coming into this game on offense and third down conversions. We were 5 of 18 in the game. Tommy, his stats were 13 of 35, 125 yards, 1 touchdown, and a 17.1 QBR. Now, one positive is we did block their first PAT attempt. I noticed something, though, because the ball got blocked and rolled to about the 30-35 yard line of Iowa. Now keep in mind, on these PAT teams, so Iowa's PAT team is a bunch of fat offensive linemen and maybe a couple of tight ends, but it's your best blockers and then a kicker and a holder. So the odds of one of those guys picking up the ball and running at 30-35 yards for a 2-point conversion isn't very good. What I noticed was the Nebraska players jumping on the ball, trying to cover it like recovering a fumble. It does nothing. Pick up the ball and run and get us 2 points. Just got to know the rules a little bit better. All right, let me flip to my last page of my notes here. Special teams, outside the block PAT, they did kind of struggle. Caleb Lightbourne, struggled a little bit. I'm not going to get on him. He's a freshman. He's in a tough situation. We all know that. Not going to get on him. He'll get better. Our cover teams just were not great. Every time I turned around, it seemed Iowa was spurting through with one of their returns, getting good yardage, and DeMornay Pearsonell and Trey Bryant didn't seem to have anywhere to go when we were returning the ball. Overall, the total yards, Iowa had 408 total yards, Nebraska had 217. The rush yards, Iowa had 264, Nebraska had 90. As far as yards per carry, Iowa had 5.6 yards per carry, we had 2.9 yards per carry. I think what's so frustrating about this loss for me particularly is this is an Iowa team that was 8-4 and has flat out looked bad at times. At the end of last season and at times this season. This isn't a top 10 Wisconsin team who could be Big Ten champions. This isn't a top 2 Ohio State team who could play for the national championship. Not that it's ever okay to lose or get blown out, but when you get blown out by an 8-4 Iowa team, which is nothing spectacular about them, that's what's frustrating to me. Then you couple that with the fact that we had the possibility of winning a division title if Minnesota loses tomorrow. Also, if we win and just a couple things go our way, we're in a major bowl game. And it frustrated me what was on the line, what was possible, and just the way things played out against who they played out against. You know me, I'm Mr. Positive. If you followed my Chronicles 2 years ago, last year, this year, I believe it's not what you say, it's how you say it. I believe there's always a silver lining. It's not what you do, it's how you do it. You can always find a positive. I'm not full of crap. People know I will express my opinion and I will express it directly when necessary. So trying to find a positive in this game, I had a hard time. Really, the hardest time I've had in 3 years of doing this. And the first one that popped in my mind is we didn't go backwards. We're 9-3. I addressed in my video yesterday the current state of Husker football, and it's kind of the status quo. We didn't go backwards. I guess that's a positive. I also talked about this briefly in my gut reaction video yesterday. Mike Riley's his recruiting classes are going to be coming in players that fit his system. Love Tommy Armstrong, but obviously he doesn't fit Coach Riley's system. Banker on defense, Riley on offense. We're getting players that are going to fit his system over the next couple years. I think in the next year or two, probably 2 years from now, because whoever starts next year, whether it's Tanner Lee, Patrick O'Brien, Darlington, whoever it may be, give them a year to be the starting quarterback under this system, and 2 years from now is when the expectations should go up for Mike Riley and his staff, and we'll see where we're at that time. So Monday, I will be talking, at this moment, I plan on talking about updating the Huskers bowl game situation, likely bowl game destinations, where they're going to be going, who they could possibly be playing. So check that out on Monday. I'm going to be doing a show on Wednesday, kind of the every other day thing. So Monday and then Wednesday. I'm not sure what I'm talking about yet, but check those shows out, Monday and Wednesday. Until then, go Big Red, and always remember to throw the bones.